I have just spent the entire day filming makeup videos for my main channel, so I thought since I've been sitting here, I might as well film my February reading wrap up here as well. I have read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's not true. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books. 8 books in February, which is one less than I read in January. But February is a shorter month. Quite honestly, the reason why I've read less is because I have been taking every moment that I can to spend time with my friend. She's been living with me for 3 months, but she has now left again and gone back to Sweden, which is where I'm from as well. So that's why I have been, but I feel like I've read quite okay. I do have some stats. Let's get into the stats. I've been prepared, okay? So like I said, I've read 8 different books and I have read in total 2,814 pages, which is, I'm gonna be honest, quite a lot less than last month. But remember, it's less days. Now I've just been reading a little bit less this month, but I still think that that's pretty okay. I did give an average rating of 3.63 stars, which means that this has been a pretty average reading month. I will say, I think that we'll talk more about that when we get into ratings, but I think that 3 stars is probably the review that I've given the most. I haven't given any 1 stars this month, which is good, I guess, but it's been a pretty average month. So 2 of the books that I've been reading has been on my TBR list and 6 has been on my non-TBR list. For me, my TBR list are books that I either have pre-bought that I've already decided these are being released this month, I am reading these books, or books that have been picked by because I do a TBR jar like prompt kind of a thing, and that was my last video here on my channel. So if you want to see what books I picked for March, definitely check that out. I am co-reading 2 of the books that I picked in my TBR jar at the same time right now. If you want to see more about the books that I'm reading and follow along a little bit more almost in real time, I definitely suggest you to follow me on Goodreads as well. You can find my Goodreads and my Amazon recommendations list down below, and all the books that I'm going to be talking about today as well. So always check the description box for more info. But I only had 2 books left on my TBR list because I did a TBR jar prompt kind of a thing. I did that for January and February because I wasn't sure how much I was going to be able to read, but I quickly realized, you know what, I'm just going to do it every month instead. So I only had 2 books left on my TBR list to read for February. When I get into reviewing books, I'll start with the 2 books that I had on my TBR list. When it comes to genres, I read 2 fantasy, 2 contemporary romance, 1 urban fantasy, 2 young adult, and 1 sci-fi. I was really out of my element because I don't read a lot of sci-fi and I don't read a lot of urban fantasy. So this was definitely for me a month of different kind of categories, because I will say for the bigger part of 2024, I only read fantasy. Only. No other books. Nothing else. Only fantasy or a couple of urban fantasy. So this was a little bit different for me. And when it comes to ratings, like I mentioned, I gave most of the books a 3 star. 4 whole books got a 3 star, 3 different books got a 4 star, and then I gave 1 book a 5 star. And I still think about this book. For me, how I'm rating books, so this is how I'm rating books. If I really love a book, it's a 4 star. If I absolutely am obsessed with a book, it really clicks with me and I keep thinking about the book and I can just really see so many smart things about it. I want to be impressed by the book. I want to be moved by the book. I want to keep thinking about the book. I want to get that 5-star feeling. That's when I give a book a 5 star. A 3 star for me, it's an okay book. It's an okay book. It wasn't great. It didn't move me like a 4 star did, but it was okay. 2 star is when I'm starting to see flaws with a book, like bigger flaws. And 1 star is just like, no, why? This was a waste of time. Waste of everyone's time, quite honestly. That's how I rate books. I also rate books in genres. So a 5-star contemporary romance, I put a 5-star contemporary romance in the category of contemporary romance. A 5-star fantasy, I don't think is the same as a 5-star young adult or a 5-star contemporary romance or a 5-star whatever. I try to put it in the genres that they are in because I feel like a contemporary romance, and I'm going to be honest, is it ever going to move me the way that some other books have? probably not. So I try to think like in the categories that they're in. Let's start with the book that I read the first this month and also was part of my TBR list. This is Kingdom of Blood and Salt. This is by Alexis Calder, and I really like this book. I give this book a 4-star. I thought this was really interesting, and the premise of this book was interesting as well. And there was a bunch of like unexpected. Okay, you went in reading this book realizing that there is going to be a lot of things that you don't know, so you are reading it in as the main female protagonist of this book. Saara is a princess of the last human kingdom. I think it's called like Athos, yes. And there's a dragon, there's fae, there's vampires, there's all kinds of things, and I think her stepmom is, let me think. The king cheated on her stepmom and got her. But her older sister is supposed to be the queen one day. So she's in line for the throne. And Saara just wants to go to the wall and defend her kingdom against dragons. And there is a lot of things going on in this book that is very Greek mythology themed, if I would say. Even the map. Let me show you the map, because it's literally Greece. I saw it and I was like, because the map is here. The map is before you start reading. This is the map. And like, this is Greece and this is Crete and this is Greece. And it's very interesting how they are, the Crete here is called Konos, and there is a mythical creature on the island with they're really tying in to all of the different myths in a very interesting way. And what Saara has been told, what the humans know, is that they are at war with dragons, and the only reason why Fae aren't coming and just taking over the country is because they're having a deal with the Fae where the Fae can come in, I don't know, once every whatever years it is, but it isn't every year. It's once every something year, and they get to pick some people and bring back to the Fae Kingdom. Nobody knows what happens to them. All they know is that the royal family is safe, and some of the people are just sacrificed to the Fae. This is what they believe. And this takes place as that, like, I don't know, picking is happening. And the general that comes from the Konos Island is told by Saara that she has to show him around because they have to make the Fae happy so that they don't end up wanting more people than the deal is about, basically. And throughout this book, Saara is finding out more and more things about maybe the war against dragons and humans' place in the world isn't what she's been told, and she's just realizing that maybe she's more sheltered than she actually honestly believed. And it's a really interesting book. Again, I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was very easy to read. It's almost, even though this is adult fantasy, it is almost a not coming of age, but it is that point in your life when you think you're invincible. You know everything. We've all been there. I've been there. What was I, 19, 20, 21? I knew everything. Adults don't get it. I know everything, and this book is basically her realizing that maybe the adults are onto something. Maybe they know more than she does, and I liked how defensive she was of her sisters, even though she hated her stepmom, but she understood her stepmom because, I mean, it's not her fault that her dad was cheating on her stepmom, so it's a very, conflicting feelings kind of a thing, and I liked it. I gave it a 4 star. I bought the second book. I have it here somewhere, and I thought it was a great book. If you are looking for an easy, entertaining, just fantasy book to read, I recommend it. I already bought the second one. I thought it ended in a way where I'm like, ooh, I want to see what happens next. Second book I read was Red Rising, and this is by Pierce Brown. I am so impressed by this book, and the only reason why I did not give this book a 5 star, I gave this book a 4 star, is because I feel like there were some parts that were so detailed in description, very going into detail explaining things, and then there are some things that are like, oh, and then it just solved itself and now it's 3 days later. And I'm like, I really thought that situation would garner more than 2 sentences at the end of a chapter, and now we're moving on. So there were some parts of this where maybe it's just me used to a certain kind of writing, because I will say The world building in this one? Oh, it was rough. It was rough. I am not used to sci-fi. I'm not used to male authors because this is a male author with a male protagonist. And I will say the way that he is describing his wife is, oh, she's so small, she's so sweet, she's so nice, she's so fragile. I'm like it's very men describing women. It does get better along the book, but I will say the beginning, I was like, no. That part I didn't love. And only because of the pacing did I give this a 4-star, because I think the book is really incredible. This is about Darrow. He is living on Mars underground, and they are mining for a mineral that eventually will make them be able to just terraform the whole planet, and they can live above land. And since they are the first ones to be on Mars, well, they're like second and third generation to be on Mars, but they are being told that once we are able to have enough of this mineral to terraform the surface, you, the miners, will be the first to live there. And the book, in the beginning part of the book, he basically realized the planet has already been terraformed. They haven't told them. They just haven't told them because they need them. They need them to live under the surface in these mines, not knowing that there is a whole world out there, because they need them as slaves. So he basically realizes in the beginning of this book, I'm a slave. They're keeping me here unknowingly. They're telling me eventually we'll be able to terraform and you will live above surface. But he realizes people are already living above surfaces. He gets up and he sees there are cities, there are people, and he realizes, because there's a very strong hierarchy in this book, and he is a red rising. Reds are slaves. That's what he's realizing. And then there are whites, and there are bronzers, and then there are the absolute highest in the hierarchy, which are the golds. And he is basically given an opportunity to be part of a, dare I say, revolution. And it's a very smart book. And I feel like this book has a lot in common with another book that I'm going to be talking to you in a bit, and also with The Hunger Games. It is about realizing that in war, there are bad people on both sides and there are good people on both sides, and you just end up being on one side, and sometimes you have to believe the things that are being told to you because you have no access to the other story. And I gotta say, it was very interesting, the development of the character in this one. I really liked it. And I've heard the second book is even better, so I am intrigued to read it. Now, especially when I've already had the world building, maybe I'll be able to get into it even better. Have you read the second book? What do you think of it? Because I really did enjoy this one, which is very unusual reading for me, because I was like, what's going on? Let's talk about some contemporary romances. I read 2, like I said. I read Flawless by Elsie Silver. I really like Elsie Silver, and I like this series. Just straight out of the gate, I like this more than I like the other book. I had another book that I gave a 4-star. What was that one called? Let me bring up my Goodreads. It was called Wild Love, and I'm almost contemplating moving that into a 3-star. The more I'm reading contemporary romance, and the more I'm like, there were some flaws with that book, and I like this one way more, and I'm pretty sure I gave this one a 4-star, and it definitely deserved getting a 4-star. Yes, this is the first book in the series Chestnut Springs, and I might move the other one into a 3-star instead. And basically, this is about a guy that's named Roth Eaton, and he's like kind of a bad boy, and he is having some problems with his public image. He is a, what do you call him, a bull rider on a rodeo, which is something that I personally like am not about. So I didn't love that this book was almost like glorifying that, but like that aside. And his manager says basically, listen, you have problem with your PR image, is just not great. I'm gonna assign my daughter to keep an eye on you because you cannot fluff this up, because we are at the end of the season and you're about to lose some of your sponsors. And his daughter is named Summer. So she basically comes in as a babysitter, and they are very, very different to each other. And this is their love story. I mean, it's like a reluctant alliance almost, I would say. It's definitely not like enemies to lovers, because they're never enemies. It's more like a reluctant alliance. But it is very it is a very good book, and I like how Elsie Silver writes how people fall in love. It's very believable, and I did really enjoy that, and I thought it was an entertaining book. Maybe I don't need to say more about this. It's a cowboy romance. It's the first book in the series. I already bought the second book, I think I already bought the second book. I thought it was interesting. I recommend it. The next one, I bought this book because one of my favorite book YouTubers gave this book a 5-star, and she said, this one is so amazing, you need to read it. And I don't agree. I gave this one Passenger Princess by Morgan Elizabeth. I gave this a 3-star. I think this is kind of mid. This is about Ava, who basically wins Miss Americana on a whim. She joins to be able to help promote her friends' businesses, and at the tour that she's going to take after winning, she is being assigned a bodyguard whose name is Jamie, and it's very grumpy sunshine. The thing about this book that I wrote it a 3-star is that the end is almost... They're even writing it in the book. They're like, let me do a Scooby-Doo unreal. And it is Scooby-Doo. The ending is Scooby-Doo. It's Cartoon Network 1992 Scooby-Doo. And I'm just like, I wasn't convinced. I thought it almost became a little comical at the end. I didn't like it. This is a rom-com. But the parts sometimes that were supposed to be comical for me wasn't 100%. And the things that were supposed to be endearing was just too much. It was cringy. It was sugary sweet. It was like, dude, you're doing too much. You're doing too much. If a guy went this above and beyond with me, I would just be like, what are you like? What are you hiding? You're like a criminal? Are you like, did you escape from prison? Like, you're doing too much. It's too much. I don't find that endearing, but it also is me. Here comes to me. I don't like grand gestures. It's not my journey. That's why I don't think necessarily there's anything wrong with this book. Maybe the ending, again, little Scooby-Doo. But the book itself, how it's written, how they're falling in love, because of course, again, Grumpy Sunshine, how they're falling, there's nothing wrong with it. Just the ending is a little so-so for me. Again, it's giving Scooby-Doo, but also she is described as this, everybody loves her. She is just this powerhouse. She's energetic. She is like always on, and people love her. And she's the kind of person that would annoy the living daylight out of me. And to have someone like that be described as everyone loves her, it just almost takes me back to like being a kid, and it's like the popular girl in school. And I'm just like, I think she's too much. And also there are parts in this book where she is straight up like just irresponsible. Like, and I don't like irresponsible people. So I think that the problem is the female character. She is, according to me, annoying. I don't want to be her friend. No. She's too much. I don't like her. I don't want to be her friend. I can't be rooting for her because she's straight up like being irresponsible at times. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't like people like that are like, I'm just gonna do my thing. Even if it hurts you, I'm gonna do my thing. And it's like, no, pass. Let me talk about the urban fantasy that I read. And this is actually one of my absolute favorite authors. And this is Veronica Roth. Veronica Roth wrote Divergent. I really like that book series. I love that book series. I thought it was great. It was about almost this micro society with closed doors, almost like a high school, but made it into like a young adult. She also wrote this amazing duology. I'll put the picture here somewhere, that I love even more than Divergent. If you haven't read that, I absolutely love that. So when I heard that she has written a novella, and this is, it's a really thin book. I think it's like 150 pages or something, 150 something pages. This is an urban fantasy novella by Veronica Roth, and it is called When Among Crows. Oh, I was just so interested. I bought it immediately. The thing with this book is that the language is more like bejeweled and almost poetic than what I am used to her writing. And it is really just throwing you in to this without really world building at all. And you're just like, huh? Who? Where? Huh? When is this? Nobody knows. It is in this world, almost in this time, but in almost like an alternative timeline where there are like mythical creatures and it's a dystopian society, but it still feels like now, and there are witches, and it's just, it's thought-provoking. There is also a I don't know how you would say it in English, but there is like an LGBTQI plus relationship in this. If that is something that intrigues you, it's also a very, it's not like, there's no explanation to it. It just happens. And I love that they don't need to explain anything. Love that society for that, because I feel like sometimes in books, they're almost like explaining stuff. They're like, yeah, I like girls too. And it's like, we got that from you kissing her. You don't have to put that in the book. Like, that's just silly. And I like that this book didn't do that. What is this book about? I mean, your guess is as good as mine. It's not that long, and it is pretty poetic, and I liked it. Apparently, there is a book 2, and honestly, there even didn't really need to be a book 2, because it ends in a way where it's like, it could have ended there, but I gave this a 3-star. Should I have said that? Can you tell that I'm confused by this book? I am confused by this book. It's this, they're going on a quest, the reluctant allies, it's hidden identities, and it's a confusing book, but it's a beautiful book. I mean, I gave it a 3-star. I wasn't gripped enough by it to give it more than that. And I'm not sure that I loved the way that these were written. Maybe also that one of them. Another book that I also gave a 3-star is Faebound, and this is by Saara El-Arifi. And again, if you're also interested in reading LGBTQI plus books, this definitely is. They have different relationships with different genders. They also have very fluid genders within this book, which I found very interesting, and it is described without any frills and fluffs in the beginning of the book. And again, I love books that do that. There's no like, this is why, it's just this is how it is. And I really did enjoy that. I also am pretty sure, yes, I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure it's a Black author, and all the people in this, people, fae, fairy, humans, are people of color in this book as well. I do not think I saw a single person not described as that. So that is also a very interesting, because we don't see that a lot in fantasy books, and that is a shame. You know, fantasy, especially romantasy, is just ridden with this curse of his or her tan golden skin, and it's like ambivalent enough. So like, is she black? Is she white? Did she just spend time in the sun? Nobody knows. Golden skin. But this is definitely people of color, and I like the world. This is a world where there are fae, fairies, and humans, and the only ones that are left in the world. There's this prophecy. All 3 of them are walking among in the world, created by 3 different gods, and eventually the fairies wipe people out, and there's only the fairies left. And the fairies are divided into different clans, and the different clans are at war with each other since forever, fighting for this natural resource that all of them need, and for some reason they're not able to, I don't know, form peace around this and share them amongst each other. So this is about 2 sisters, and this book starts with one of the sisters being banished from the country, from the fairy lands. And they basically run into what they thought were impossible, what everyone said no longer exists, which are the fae. And this story basically takes on from there, and it is just a very interesting, it is a romantasy book. The reason why I gave this a 3-star is that I love the magic in this. I love that the gods gave the fae, the fairies, and the humans 3 different kinds of magic, so that they can never use each other's magic, because they have their own way of expressing their magic. And now that all the humans are gone, nobody can access the human magic any longer. And I like the magic system. I like this plot line, even though it's a little bit predictable at times. I like that they are bound to their animals that they can ride on, not dragons, more like reindeer meet tiger meets bear kind of a thing. Have that in the back of your head. What I don't like is the characters. I don't like the characters. I feel like they are whiny and difficult and a little flat. And I feel like I explained this to my friend, like, how did you feel about the book? And I said that there's really nothing wrong with this story, but I don't feel like I am reading the story firsthand. I almost feel like I am reading or listening to a story that's being told to me secondhand. Like I am once removed from the story, because I can never really feel the story. I never feel the tension, I never feel the love, I never feel any of it, because it's kind of flattened out by being retold to me like one step away. And I feel like it's almost like it's a little flat, it's a little two-dimensional. I'm missing some of the angst. I don't feel the love, I don't feel the angst, I don't feel the tension. It's just a little, and then this happened, and then that happened. And I'm not sold. And that's why I gave this one a 3-star. This is the first book. It's in the, what is the series called? So this is Faebound, and this is number 1 in, a lot of people seem to love this, which is great. I love that for them. I can't see. I don't know what the series is called, but number 2 just came out, and it looks like this, but it's blue instead, I think, or maybe purple. And I decided to read this book because I wanted to see, one of my goals for 2025 is to read books in romantasy that are still coming out with books in 2025, to be caught up on series, to decide whether or not I want to continue reading them. And I did decide I'm not going to continue reading this one, because I quite honestly just don't care about these people. I don't feel like I know them, and it's a shame, but that's how it is sometimes. It saves me another series to have to keep up with, because I was like, If you have watched my book channel for a bit, you remember that I gave Powerless 1 star. I did not like that book. I did not think it was a good book, but I did hear from some people who gave Powerless 1 star that they thought that Reckless was good. So, and the people who gave Powerless 5 stars said that they didn't like Reckless as much, and that told me that this book is probably really different from the first book. Powerless, I thought, was annoying. So annoying. All the characters were annoying, they were bitching about the wrong things, and I feel like nobody really cared about the big problem. And I feel like in this book, I give this book a 3 star. I've already pre-ordered book 3, it's coming out real soon. This book ends on a real big cliffhanger where I'm like, I need to see where this is going. This book really gets into the actual, what I think these books are about. These are young adult fantasy books, and they are about racism. Listen, I will not take any further questions about this. These books are about racism. Exchange any of the powerless words into any of the slurs that you hear out in the world today, and you will realize why this book series is about racism. And I am very happy to see the author dare to write something like that, because in this book she's really getting to the plot. And if the main character, without giving too much away, of course I can't tell you what this is about because it is the second book, but I can tell you it's better than the first book. If the main character has just asked 1 or 2 more follow-up questions, I would have given this a 4 or 5 star. Because there are times when characters say stuff like, we can't let the powerless get kids with the people with power because they will dilute the blood. Where have you heard that before? Where have you heard that before? And the male character does say something about that, but I wish she would have pushed even more. I wish she would have said, like, does that matter? Are we worth less? Do we not deserve to live? I wish she would have pushed more, because some of those questions are raised in this book, and I really, really, really hope that the author brings it home in book 3, just raising this like, just because you think that you are better than us, even if you think you are, it does not mean that we don't deserve to live. And I do think that the message is really good. And again, when I talk about what I think that the Hunger Games is about, I never say the same things as other people. Maybe I'm being too philosophical, but I would say this is a young adult fantasy series, but the main message of these books is racism. And I will say the book that I gave a 5-star is actually, this is also young adult. And this is Heartless Hunter. This is by Kristen Ciccarelli. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Ciccarelli. I was halfway through this book. I took up my phone and I ordered book 2. Absolutely love this book. Again, I gave it a 5-star. I think this is an amazing book. And I think this, everybody sit down, I think this is as good as Hunger Games. And it gives an equal good message as Hunger Games. And this one maybe even more drives in some of the things, again, that we are, and this is what I think young adults sometimes does so well. They take things that are going on right now, in this world right now, and they make it into this fiction world. And the more you read it, the more you start thinking, wait, I have seen these problems somewhere else. This is about a witch hunter and a witch. This is absolutely the most believable actual enemies to lovers story that goes on for 2 books. Also, it's only 2 books. It's a duology. I did read the second book, and I will talk about that next month because I read that in March. This is about a country that used to be ruled by witches. And then they got overturned by the Republic or whatever they're calling themselves. And now it's ruled by witch hunters. And the witches used to be cruel and people lived in poverty. But the Republic is also cruel and people are still living in poverty. And now they're killing everyone that's a witch and everyone that's a witch sympathizer. And the main character of this book, what is her name again? Rune. Rune is a witch, but she has never been found out to be a witch. And she is secretly the Crimson Moth. So this is the Crimson Moth book 1. And she is like almost a socialite. She is living a very like high society life, and she is secretly the Crimson Moth, but she is rescuing witches that have been captured. And then we have the other main character who is Gideon, and he is the captain of the Blood Guards who are capturing the witches, and he is trying to hunt the Crimson Moth down. So this is a very cat and mouse kind of a book. And the thing is that this is a perfect explanation to why sometimes 2 people can be on a different side of a conflict and they're both good people and they both have great points and neither of them are wrong. Both sides are wrong and right at the same time. And how come 2 decent people can have such differing opinions about 2 so wildly different things, because they are definitely on 2 different sides of this conflict, but they're both nice people. They just have not seen both sides of the stories, and they have not realized that our side can be right and wrong at the same time. Their side can be right and wrong at the same time. There are good and bad people on both sides, and if we only listen to one side of the story, we only get to hear about our heroes. We don't get to hear about our crooks. And it also is this perfect description of what happens when somebody wins a war. We always say the winners get to write history, and that's definitely what's going on in this book. And it's just a very interesting, it's an interesting journey of opening up, trusting somebody else, and being able to be open and listening to somebody else's perspective, because there is nothing more important as a human being than being open to the option or to the reality that you might be wrong. You might be misinformed. You might want to rethink your opinions. Because I feel like today, a lot of the conflict that's going on is because people are stubborn and they refuse to reevaluate their opinions or their values when they get new information. They just deem anything that doesn't fit into the world picture that they want to have as incorrect. I gave this a 5-star. I thought this was a great book. Spoiler alert, I love the second book too. If you want to read, this is young adult, but there are some very mild, definitely, I wouldn't call it even smut. There are mild spice in here. The love story is very endearing, and I didn't think that it dragged on for too long. Book 2 is as important as this book, and it just is a really good story with a really believable ending, and I loved it. I loved it, and I recommend that one, and I recommend the second book as well. We'll talk about that more next month. This was a really, look at me, I had so much to say. I had so much to say, and I've read some really nice books. I do hope I get to read, I mean, I already read a really good book in March, and I'm right now reading 2 books tandem, and I am so far enjoying both of them a lot. If you want to see the books that I picked for my TBR for March, that video was the video that came up before this one. I hope you're having an amazing day. Don't forget to check the description box for more info. Let me know what you read in February. I would love to hear about it, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you soon in a new video. Bye!